What's that song called? You know the name of that song that forever I thought was Alanis Morissette and it's not? It's like, I'm a bitch. Well, to the tune of that, you know, because it goes, I hate the world today, but mine is, I hate myself today, like everything about my face. Okay, let me stop. Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess, and I'm going to be talking about the books that I read in January. So I do not love filming wrap-ups, but I love watching them, and I want to talk about the books that I read because I'm not going to do individual reviews for all of them. But I don't know, wrap-ups just seem daunting. That's why this one is so late. But I am going to separate my wrap-ups into fiction and nonfiction. So this will be the fiction books that I read in January, and then later will be the nonfiction. For this first nonfiction video though, I am going to include a couple that I read in December, but then going forward, if I read more than one nonfiction, I'll most likely keep it separate just because I want to talk about those more in depth and I don't want this to be a super long video. So I'll go ahead and get started with the fiction books that I read in January. So I started the year off with The Night Swim by Megan Golden. This is a crime fiction. Is it considered a thriller? I'm not sure, but I read it. I listened to it on audio, which I highly recommend. There are two timelines. One is in the past, like 25 years, where we are following this girl and her sister, and they're not very well liked in the town. And then her sister ends up dying. The question is, was it a suicide or was it murder? And then we're in present day with a podcaster, and she does like a true crime podcast, and she's in this small town covering a rape case. So there's like a small town hero. He is supposed to go to the Olympics to be a swimmer, and he's accused of raping another girl from the town. And so the girl from the past has contacted the podcaster in the present to look into her sister's case. I hope that made sense. So listening to it on audio was really great because of the podcast element, because some parts of it are actual like podcast episodes. So that was really cool to listen to. I thought it was fine. I gave it a 3 or 3.5. I thought the topics that it covered were really important, and I think they were handled well. I don't think overall the story to me was that like thrilling or I don't know. I kind of felt bored throughout it, but it was fine. Other people have really enjoyed this, so maybe it was me. But the topics, obviously talking about rape and just how communities tend to take sides and usually believe the boy, especially if he's like really great in sports. He's going to bring like, you know, renown to the town, which is so messed up. But she also kind of talks on kind of the process of the trial. You know, you're technically guilty by the media before a trial even starts, talking about jury and jury selection, and is it really possible to have an unbiased jury? So I thought those were really interesting topics that were brought up in the story. Overall, it was a decent read, and like I said, I listened to it on audio, so it was a pretty fast listen, but I didn't think it was outstanding by any means. Then I read Root Magic by Eden Royce, and I loved it so much. It is a middle grade, and it is a historical ghost story. So it's set in South Carolina in the 1960s, and it's set in Charleston, which is near and dear to my heart. I am from South Carolina, so I'm very familiar with the area, and that was another thing I loved about the book. Just things that she was describing in the story made me feel at home. But there's two twins, and I'm forgetting everyone's name, I apologize, but there's two twins who live with their mother and their uncle and their grandmother, and they're learning root magic, which is an African American type of magic. And they are dealing with, you know, supernatural kind of things like ghosts and hags and things like that. But there's also the real kind of horror element of racism, because this is around the time schools are starting to segregate. This is obviously in the South during the 1960s, so lots of racism and dealing just with like living in a racist society. So that danger, that horror, and then the supernatural aspect. But I really loved it. Like I said, it made me feel like home, just all of the mentions of food and places and some of the language. But then I also love the family aspect of it, since parents tend to be absent in a lot of stories in middle grade and young adult. So I was really happy to see the familial element and the relationship between siblings. And I just thought it was a really great story. I think it's a really important story. It shows, you know, how children are affected by anti-racism and racist systems, but then also like the power of friendship and family and connecting with your past and knowing where you come from. So I really loved it. Eden Royce is also from Charleston, South Carolina. She's a freshwater Geechee, but she lives in London right now. So anyway, an author from South Carolina, a story set in South Carolina. I was team Root Magic before I even read it, and then I read it and it was amazing. So 5 stars, I highly recommend everyone check it out. So I reread The Poppy War. I did listen to this on audio. I just wanted to go into the next book really fresh. It was just as amazing. The second time I gave it a 4.5. There's a little bit of a pacing issue, but I love this book. The first part is set at a military school and our main character, Rin, studied really hard to get into it. It's very prestigious. And then the second part goes into war because the country's at war and the kids at the military academy have to go into war. This is an adult historical fantasy and it is very graphic, very dark because of the things that happen. It's based on actual events in history, so I would look up all of the trigger warnings because there are a lot, but I love this on my reread. Then I went into the Dragon Republic and I read the physical copy of this, and I was a little nervous because it was a little more chunky than the Poppy War, but my God. Rebecca, what did you do? The Dragon Republic to me was perfect from page 1 to the very end. It was intense. I thought the pacing was perfect in the Dragon Republic, the character development, what was happening with the story, the twists and turns. Oh my God, I was so stressed out for like this entire book, but it was so good. Oh my God, Rin is so she's sometimes hard to root for, but I've always liked her character because she's not like 100% this great person. Like, she has a lot of flaws. She does fucked up shit. She makes terrible decisions sometimes. She's very impulsive, can be very angry, but she's like realistic and relatable. And I don't want to mention names of people because I'm not going to say anything, but I love the story and the characters in this and the character development, the relationships. Oh my God, it was so perfect. So then I went into the finale, Burning God, which I also really loved, but just not as much. So I loved the first like 70%, 65%. I think there's part 1, 2, and 3 if I'm not mistaken. But here was my issue with this. Part 2 was too long, and there was a part where they're slowly marching on foot to this place for a specific reason. And it's very drawn out, which is fine in the story if it's going to pay off. But then they get to said place for said reason, and then it's like, never mind. And I'm like, we spent all that time on this journey with them for it really to not turn into anything. And then we go into part 3, which is the culmination of everything, and it felt really rushed. So I felt like part 2 should have been shortened and she should have reworked that whole situation and put more time into part 3, because really the climax, the big final battle, it was just so short. And I was like, that was it? And I don't feel like the characters really changed that much in this one like they did in the Dragon Republic. And the ending, while it was something I had suspected and I didn't hate how it ended, I don't like how we got there. So I feel like less of part 2 and more of part 3, so the lead up, the build up to the ending would have felt more satisfying. I still gave this 4 stars. I still really loved it. Overall, I love this series. Definitely something I'm going to reread in the future, but I would rank them. The Dragon Republic is my favorite, 5 stars. The Poppy War is my second favorite, 4.5, and then The Burning God at 4 stars. I know that's super weird to love the second in a series, but this has happened before with the Bear and the Nightingale series. I love The Girl in the Tower the most. Anyway, I still highly recommend this series. Please check out the trigger warnings, the content warnings, but overall, I loved it. So I gave in and I read Katherine House, even though there were a lot of questionable reviews about it. I did a Twitter poll and I should have never listened to y'all on Twitter. And I decided to read it. I got it from the library. I did a full review on it. I'll link it if you want to watch it, but I did not like that book. It felt like a waste. really nothing happens. The premise, what she thought she was doing was really great, because I read the interviews with the author before of why she wrote the book and what she was trying to accomplish, and I was really intrigued, but to me, she did not execute it well at all, so that was a big no for me. But I won't go into further details. You can watch the video if you'd like, but that was a that was enough. Now, I obviously have some favorites from January: The Dragon Republic, Root Magic, but also Amari and the Night Brothers. And if you watched my last live stream that I had, if you've seen any of my posts on Instagram, like, I am team Amari for 2021. Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. I'm pretty sure this is his first novel, and this is also a middle grade. It's a fantasy. Look at this cover. Look at this cover. I also want the UK cover. I kind of need it. This was kindly sent to me by Macmillan Kids, so this was like the first book I ever got from a publisher, and it's perfect. So Amari has an older brother named Quentin. He was the best student, super smart and determined, well-behaved, but he goes missing. And so this, doesn't seem right. And it's been a while when the book starts that he's been missing. And so Amari's still looking for him, but the authorities really aren't looking anymore. They're kind of like, it's been a long time. He's probably not coming back, but she refuses to give up. So she's having a hard time in school because she's really trying to find her brother. She's also a Black girl at a prestigious academy because she got a scholarship. So she's dealing with that. Racism from her classmates and people picking on her because she came from a poor family. But it is the end of the school year. She's rooting around looking for things in her brother's room, and there's this briefcase that's making a sound. And she digs it out of the closet, but it's addressed to her. And so she opens it up, and it turns out her brother had nominated her for the Bureau of Supernatural Investigations. Is that it? No, the Bureau of Supernatural Affairs. And so she has to go to this bureau and essentially try out to get in. But she's like, how am I supposed to get there without telling my mom about supernatural? But her brother has been going to this bureau over the summer for the last couple of years, and they have this whole thing of how they, tell the parents without them actually knowing. So anyway, there are kids who are in the bureau and they've had family in the bureau for years, and then there's kids who, they're the first ones of their family to be in there. So of course, that is Amari. Although her brother was there and he was very well known, she still is kind of an outsider. So she has to kind of deal with that again in here, like she was dealing with in school. And while she's interested in the bureau and learning about that, her main thing is still to find her brother. So the story is the adventure of her at this camp during the summer, and it basically feels like a school setting. I really loved her roommate. She's a sweet girl. You meet all these different supernatural creatures and there's all these trials they have to go to. There's a mystery because she's trying to figure out what happened to her brother, but then there's other things happening, and it is so good. I thought the pacing was excellent. The characters were great. Amari is such a great character. The villains, the twist, I was like, oh, I did not see that coming at all. This is a middle grade, but it's written so much better than so many young adult novels that I've read. I finished this and I was like, I need the next one. And then apparently it's been optioned into a movie. This book is perfect. I need everyone to read it. I do not care if you don't read middle grade, you need to read this book. It was phenomenal for this to be a debut. I'm in love, and I need this to be the year of Amari. I'm just going to keep talking about it until everyone reads it because it needs more love. It deserves more love, more hype. More people need to add it on Goodreads. They need to read it. Amari. I think the way The House in Cerulean Sea was my book of 2020, this may be my book of 2021 that I'm just going to keep talking about. Please read this book. And then I will mention the two nonfiction books that I read. I read Black Fatigue by Mary Frances Winters, and then I also read Big Friendship, and I cannot remember. I know their names are Anne and Aminatu, but I can't remember the last names. So I'm going to talk about those in a separate video with my nonfiction reads from December and January. But overall, I had a really great reading month. I started off with some awesome reads, and I felt really great to complete a series by reading The Poppy War. So that was it for me in January. Did you have any amazing reads, or how did your year start off? Have you read Amari yet? That's the real question. But yeah, I'm gonna keep thinking about how I want to do wrap-ups going forward. That really wasn't that bad. I don't know how people who read more than 10 books do wrap-ups. I'm exhausted already, and I only talked about what, 6 or 7 books. But thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're taking care of yourself and staying home if you can, wearing your mask, washing your hands, wearing your sunscreen, your chapstick, drink water. Also, if you are able to get the vaccine, to get it. I got my first dose. I'm feeling very grateful that I did. The only a side effect I had was sore arm, but I am all better now. So I will wait. I think it's like you have to wait 28 days before your second dose. But you guys, I'm so tired of there being a parallelogram outside. So we just all need to do our collective part to try to end this panini because I'm sick of it. Anyway, thank you for watching. Please give this a thumbs up if you liked, subscribe, check my description box. I'll have all the books linked that I talked about, links to information about things that are happening around the world, my social media if you would like to follow me, and ways to support my channel. But thank you again. I'll see you in my next one. Bye. I hate the world today, including everything, especially my own face. Okay, that's it. Bye.